So that's the reservoir.
Follow the manufacturer's instructions on what to torque it to.
Hey YouTube, this is Tech from TechMech&More, and we have here a video tutorial on replacing the wheel cylinder for a 2000 Dodge Grand Caravan. The instructions here are specific to this model, however most vehicles have the same or similar design, so these instructions should work for you too. And of course, as always, I hope you enjoy. To start off, we'll see the tools we need. We'll need a one-man bleeding kit, a brake cylinder, a brake cleaner. We'll also need a brake cylinder, WD-40 penetrating spray, needle nose plier, a screwdriver, ratchet, towels, and of course brake fluid. These things are all found at your local hardware or automotive store, so it shouldn't be too pricey, and you'll be able to get all these things for a pretty good budget. So now let's get started. First, we'll remove any hubcaps or anything in front of the tire. We want to use the tire iron to remove the lugs from the tire while the car is still on the ground. Just make sure the car doesn't spin and the lugs come off pretty easily. We're going to use a jack to lift up the vehicle, only a few inches off the ground, doesn't have to be too high. You want to make sure we put the jack on a secure location of the vehicle so that nothing is damaged. After we get the car up in the air, we can remove the tire and the brake drum. And this is where that WD-40 penetrating spray comes in. We're going to use it on the bolts behind the drum. So after we get those nice and lubricated, make sure they come off pretty easily. We can go on to the next part. So of course, get both sides. And then we're going to unhook the spring stabilizing clip. That should come off pretty easily, but the top brake shoe spring might be a little difficult. So you want to try and make sure you don't bend it, and then you have your cylinder there. We want to loosen the bolts behind the cylinder. Don't remove them, just loosen them. And then after that, we're going to unscrew the brake line from the wheel cylinder itself. It shouldn't be too difficult, but you want to make sure that not too much brake fluid escapes. So once you remove that, go ahead and put that towel in the place of the brake cylinder, and we'll do that after we remove the brakes or the bolts. So after this, we have our new cylinder. We're going to remove the little brake line plug. It's a red plug, and that stops any dust from getting into the new cylinder. Once we remove that, we're going to replace the rag with the cylinder and carefully push the line into the wheel cylinder. You don't want to cross the thread, so very carefully tighten that screw by hand. You want to hold the cylinder in place so that you can get those bolts in. You can tighten them by hand so that they don't cross thread, and then torque the bolts until they're snug and will not move. Alright, and so after we do that, our next step is to spray the brakes with brake cleaner. We want to get them nice and clean. We have a lot of WD-40 that we sprayed on there. There's going to be dust and grime, and as well as brake fluid that was leaking. So we want to get all those things off of the brakes, make them nice and clean, and then put the brakes back together. It's going to go back to the original position, so how we had it when we first took it apart. It's kind of like a puzzle. The pieces fit right back to where they are. They weren't moved too far, so it shouldn't be too difficult. Make sure everything's snug, push them together, and we're going to put those clips back. So first, the top brake shoe spring. That's the one that connects two sides together. It is a little difficult to put in. You might have to struggle a little, but of course, make sure you do not bend it. We don't want to stretch that out too far. That's going to hold the brake pads together. And then after you get that spring in, there's the spring stabilizing clip that hooks it on there too, and that's going to keep your brakes back in place. Now once we get all those pieces together, go ahead and place that drum back on. Before we get there, I'm going to show you how to use the one-man bleeding kit. There's a little bleeder valve that you're going to put the hose into from the kit into that air bleeding valve. Once you get that in there, you can loosen it up as you see with the wrench here. And once you do that, it's going to be connected. On your vehicle, you're going to pump the brakes, and that'll allow the air to come out of the valve into that little container, and that's going to make sure there's no air pockets in your brakes, which of course would cause a lot of havoc. So again, go and put the brake drum back on and use the one-man bleeding kit to bleed out any air pockets or bubbles. You can do this by yourself. I didn't because I was doing the video, so I had someone hit the brakes for me, but either way it'll work the same. So once you get it in there, you're going to pump the brakes 3 times and hold it on the third one, and you'll see all these bubbles coming out. And you want to continue this process until there are no more bubbles coming out of there, so you just see a steady stream of brake fluid. After that, make sure it's nice and tight. Tighten or put your tire back on and make sure it's good. And of course, you want to double check your reservoir to make sure you have enough fluid in there. But thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below and we'll definitely check them out. Or you can email us at techmech&more@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you again, and don't forget to enjoy your bragging rights.